Chapter 291. Devouring Sky Beast. One cannot see the outside from the inside of the Martial Kin Tower. However, once someone starts the challenge, the situation inside becomes visible from the outside. At this moment, as Lin Fei stepped into the first level of the Martial Kin Tower, a formation was activated, revealing everything inside through a special method. With a swish, Lin Fei arrived at the first level of the tower. Darkness enveloped him, but it didn't hinder Lin Fei. There seemed to be no movement around him. But then, with a faint hum, Lin Fei sensed subtle fluctuations of a formation. These fluctuations were fleeting. Suddenly, a gigantic head appeared before him, its enormous maw open wide and lunging directly at Lin Fei. It seemed to appear out of nowhere. An exotic beast. Within the first level of the Martial Kin Tower lay a terrifying exotic beast that could launch surprise attacks, catching intruders off guard. Lin Fei instinctively felt that he shouldn't be swallowed by this creature. If he were, death might be imminent. The first level of the Martial Kin Tower wasn't entirely safe. On the contrary, it was perilous. One could only ensure their safety by admitting defeat. Outside the tower, the sudden appearance of the exotic beast shocked the elder, who exclaimed, "How could it be the devouring sky beast?" The elder had been guarding the Martial Kin Tower for hundreds of years and had seen numerous martial sovereigns challenge the first level. The tower would manifest various beings, sometimes a martial sovereign, sometimes a mere formation, and oftentimes exotic beasts. But never had he seen the devouring sky beast. This beast, only mentioned in ancient texts, was known to be inside the first level of the Martial Kin Tower. Though calling it a creature that could devour the sky might be an exaggeration, it was certainly capable of swallowing a mountain. Its strength was formidable. Even a martial sovereign with multiple great divine abilities could be swallowed by the beast if they were cowards. Being ingested by this creature would mean certain death. Yet, the devouring sky beast had rarely appeared on the first level of the tower. Why did it appear now? In fact, not only the elder recognized the devouring sky beast. Other martial sovereigns, who had vast experience and knowledge, also identified the creature. That's the devouring sky beast, the legendary exotic beast. With such a beast, even if he possesses two great divine abilities, it's not certain he'd win. Unless he has a specific divine ability to counter it. But what are the chances? For Aurora Sovereign, she invested so much to invite a powerful-looking martial sovereign. And now they encounter the devouring sky beast. He won't get past the first level of the Martial Kin Tower. Upon seeing the devouring sky beast, many martial sovereigns shook their heads, believing that Lin Fei had no other choice but to surrender unless he wanted to be swallowed whole by the beast. Such an outcome would surely mean death. Even the always confident Xiao Yuchen was taken aback upon seeing the beast. She knew Lin Fei possessed the saber domain, but could that even stand against the devouring sky beast? Inside the tower, Lin Fei saw the massive head and even smelled the putrid odor from the beast's mouth. It was too fast. So swift that even invoking a divine ability might be too late. The only choice seemed to be surrendering. If he didn't, he risked being swallowed and possibly facing death. Lin Fei wasn't one to easily risk his life. But surrender? It never crossed his mind. With a loud roar, the beast lunged, seemingly swallowing Lin Fei whole. However, sensing something amiss, the beast swiftly turned around. To its surprise, Lin Fei was standing right behind it. Considering the incomprehensible speed of the devouring sky beast, there seemed no way for Lin Fei to escape, yet there he was, unharmed. Lin Fei's eyes, cold as ice, stared down the beast. True, the beast was fast, so fast that he couldn't react in time. Even with his own speed, he couldn't evade its gaping maw. However, he managed to escape thanks to his saber domain. The very moment the beast appeared, Lin activated his saber domain. Within its boundaries, Lin Fei was the sovereign. He teleported an instant movement beyond mere speed. As long as he was within the domain, Lin could teleport to any corner. So, with a blink, he was behind the beast. Fire. With a step, flames engulfed everything. A white aura covered the entire first level of the Martial Kin Tower. Saber domain. Lin Fei's saber domain was fully unleashed. Within the saber domain, raging flames burned fiercely. Moreover, an intangible pressure was exerting its force on the devouring sky beast. Though it couldn't completely suppress the beast, Lin Fei's saber domain managed to restrain at least half of its strength. This was the terrifying power of Lin Fei's saber domain, effectively halving the beast's prowess. Suddenly, within the confines of the saber domain, a gust of wind began to blow. It was a chilling breeze that swept over the devouring sky beast, causing it to let out a mournful howl. It seemed to have sensed some imminent danger and struggled desperately, but to no avail. Within Lin Fei's saber domain, unless one possesses a force 10 or even dozens of times stronger than the domain itself, there's no breaking free. Lin Fei hadn't even used his 3-in-1 sword technique. He merely unleashed the Black Wind Prison. This great divine ability summoned the bone-eroding wind. At its perfected realm, the might of the Black Wind Prison had increased manifold. As the wind swept through, the massive body of the devouring sky beast began to disintegrate at a visible rate, gradually turning to ashes. Suddenly, the beast vanished. A tremendous force from all directions sliced through Lin Fei's saber domain, taking the devouring sky beast with it. The beast hadn't died. For such an exotic beast, losing part of its body wasn't a big deal. It could regenerate. You have passed the first level of the Martial Kin Tower. An emotionless, mechanical voice echoed within the tower. Shortly after, Lin Fei was teleported out of the first level. The power of the Martial Kin Tower. Lin Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. The force that had just cleaved through his saber domain was clearly far superior to it. Lin Fei had a growing suspicion. The power didn't seem to be of the Martial Sovereign. It likely belonged to the Martial Kin Tower itself. The Martial Kin Tower was, after all, forged by the Martial King. Naturally, it possesses mysterious powers. Lin Fei had been transported outside of the Martial Kin Tower. He looked around and saw various martial sovereigns, each with widened eyes and solemn expressions. Their attention was focused on him. However, Lin Fei paid them no mind. He glanced at Xiao Yuchen and calmly stated, "Aurora Sovereign, I have passed the first level of the Martial Kin Tower. Now, you can proceed to the blood pool to try and awaken your bloodline." Upon hearing Lin Fei's words, Xiao Yuchen quickly realized his meaning. "All right, I'll head to the blood pool right away. Please wait here outside the Martial Kin Tower, I'll be back soon." Xiao Yuchen immediately approached the elder guarding the outside of the Martial Kin Tower and went through some procedures before entering the tower itself. It seemed that the blood pool was located within the Martial Kin Tower. Lin Fei had not noticed it when he was on the first level, indicating that the tower truly was extraordinary. With Xiao Yuchen now inside the tower, the elder turned his gaze to Lin Fei, his eyes filled with a hint of astonishment. If my eyes do not deceive me, the technique Sovereign Lin displayed within the Martial Kin Tower was the Saber Domain. Only with the Saber Domain can one teleport. Moreover, Sovereign Lin's divine ability is immensely powerful, definitely among the top-tier great divine abilities. A Saber Domain and a top-tier great divine ability. It's no wonder you managed to pass the first level. It's rare for Aurora Sovereign to find such a top-tier martial sovereign like you. Truly extraordinary. The elder who guarded the Martial King Tower was a figure of considerable stature and discernment. Having seen countless martial sovereigns over the years, receiving praise from such an esteemed figure spoke volumes about Lin Fei's recent performance and abilities. It was no wonder the elder was so impressed. As for the other martial sovereigns from the Xiao family, their gazes towards Lin Fei became even more intricate. Many were filled with admiration, perhaps even envy, that Xiao Yuchen had managed to enlist someone like Lin Fei. Chapter 292. Gravity Domain. The descendants of the Xiao family, even though they possess the bloodline of the martial king, still face internal competition. For instance, all of them aspire to become the next martial king and reawaken their bloodlines. Such an awakening would greatly and rapidly enhance their power. Hence, they go to great lengths to venture into the Martial Kin Tower. However, the number of those who succeed is very few. Even if they were to recruit powerful martial sovereigns from outside, only a handful have been known to conquer the Martial Kin Tower. After all, the martial sovereigns of the Xiao family are already quite formidable in their own right. If even they cannot pass through the martial kin tower, how much better can outsiders be? Who can guarantee success? No one can. Now, Xiao Yuchen has found Lin Fei, and as a result, she was granted the chance to enter the blood pool, potentially reawakening her bloodline. This could give her a significant edge over others, making them undeniably envious. Lin Fei sat cross-legged on the ground, quietly waiting. A few hours later, Xiao Yuchen emerged from the martial kin tower. Lin Fei opened his eyes. Xiao Yuchen, with a wave of her hand, tossed a book towards him. "Thank you, Sovereign Lin. As per our agreement, he is the manual for the divine ability gravity domain." Lin Fei glanced at the manual in his hands. It was indeed the gravity domain. As per their agreement, Lin Fei would pass the first level of the martial kin tower, and upon Xiao Yuchen's emergence from the blood pool, he would provide Lin Fei with the divine ability manual. Both kept their word. However, Lin Fei noted that Xiao Yuchen, with a seemingly unenthusiastic expression, "Aurora Sovereign, did the bloodline awakening fail?" Lin Fei inquired. He understood that entering the blood pool didn't guarantee the awakening of one's bloodline but simply increased the chances. With a dejected look, Xiao Yuchen nodded and replied, "Indeed, the awakening of the bloodline failed. I spent so long preparing, and when I finally entered the blood pool, I gained nothing." Achieving entry to the blood pool was a dream come true for her, but the failure to awaken her bloodline was a massive blow to Xiao Yuchen's spirits. Looking determined, Xiao Yuchen said, "Sovereign Lin, I have a request. Can you attempt the second level of the martial kin tower? If you succeed, I'll have another opportunity to enter the blood pool. I believe that, on the second attempt, I will certainly awaken my bloodline." Currently, Xiao Yuchen possesses 2 divine abilities, which qualify her to challenge the second level of the martial kin tower. However, she is certain she cannot pass it. On the other hand, Lin Fei might stand a chance. Even though Lin Fei has only 1 divine ability, he possesses the saber domain. Combined with a top-tier great divine ability, he might be able to conquer the second level. With hopeful eyes, Xiao Yuchen gazed at Lin Fei. Yet, Lin Fei did not hesitate at all and said coldly, "I refuse. Our transaction is over. You gave me 1 divine ability, and I helped you pass the first level of the martial kin tower. That was the limit." Lin Fei outright refused her. The idea of him tackling 2 levels of the tower for a single divine ability was impossible. "If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave now." "Hold on," Xiao Yuchen said suddenly, determination evident in her voice. "Sovereign Lin, how can I contact you in the future? Currently, I don't possess any more divine abilities or treasures to entice you to challenge the second level of the martial kin tower. But if I acquire something valuable in the future, I hope I can invite you back." She still felt discontented. Even though Lin Fei had rejected her, she understood that her request was indeed unreasonable, even excessive. It wouldn't make sense for Lin Fei to help her for nothing. To attract someone of Lin Fei's caliber, Xiao Yuchen knew she needed to offer something truly enticing. After all, martial sovereigns like Lin Fei were rare. If she wished to venture into the second level and access the blood pool again, she would need Lin Fei's assistance. Lin Fei pondered for a moment. He had found their collaboration with Xiao Yuchen quite satisfactory, and he believed that the treasures of the martial kin's lineage might be more than what he had seen elsewhere. Maintaining a good relationship with Xiao Yuchen might benefit his future cultivation. Therefore, he conveyed to Xiao Yuchen, "Aurora Sovereign, if you have any matters, you can send a letter to the ancient origin sect." With that, Lin Fei turned and transformed into a streak of light, vanishing into the horizon. "Ancient origin sect," Xiao Yuchen murmured. She had a vague idea that Lin Fei had revealed his true identity to her. She had heard of the ancient origin sect but was not very familiar with it. However, that didn't matter now. As long as she knew Lin Fei was affiliated with the sect, she had a lead. Her immediate concern was to gather treasures or divine abilities that would entice Lin Fei. At the ancient origin sect, a streak of light descended outside a dwelling. Lin Fei had finally returned. The ancient origin sect remained as it always was, with little change. Upon arriving at his dwelling, Lin Fei reflected on his journey to the Quartz Demon Mountain, which was quite rewarding. Not only did he perfect his divine ability, Black Wind Prison, but he also acquired a new top-tier great divine ability. What's more, this great divine ability could integrate with his saber domain to some extent. Inside his dwelling, Lin Fei took out this divine ability named Gravity Domain. Rather than studying it slowly on his own, he decided to integrate it immediately to save time. Come, Gravity Domain, Lin Fei murmured, become my divine ability. When I achieve the Martial King status and obtain the Martial King bloodline, you will forever reside in my bloodline, indestructible and eternal. This knowledge about the Martial King bloodline and its capability to inherit divine abilities was something Lin Fei learned from his visit to the Xiao family. Once an individual has the Martial King's bloodline, the divine ability would hardly ever vanish. As long as the bloodline is awakened, the divine ability can manifest. This concept is immensely attractive, and very few divine abilities could resist such temptation. Sure enough, a voice echoed in Lin Fei's mind. The divine ability, Gravity Domain, wishes to be integrated into your martial techniques. Do you accept? Of course, replied Lin Fei without hesitation. He embraced the Gravity Domain. A rumbling noise followed. Behind Lin Fei, the life wheel manifested. On the life wheel, a layer of immense divine ability light exerted a formidable pressure. Now, on top of that layer, another layer of radiance appeared, signifying his second divine ability. Lin Fei now possessed two divine abilities. Simultaneously, a set of memories emerged in Lin Fei's mind. These were memories of him practicing the Gravity Domain as if he had genuinely cultivated it. However, it was just beginner. Lin Fei opened his eyes and, with a mere thought, extended his hand and clenched it lightly. An enormous rumbling sound reverberated, and it felt as if his entire dwelling had collapsed. This was the power of gravity. Lin Fei's Gravity Domain could affect everything around him. Anything within the scope of his Gravity Domain would endure the terrifying pressure of immense gravity. Furthermore, if he expanded the reach of his Gravity Domain, he could reshape the very landscape, moving mountains and redirecting seas. When combined with the Saber Domain, its power would be unfathomable. Chapter 293. Practicing in the Gravity Tower. Now, Lin Fei had acquired two great divine abilities, both of which were top tier. Even without the Saber Domain, Lin Fei's status in the ancient origin sect was that of a top-tier martial sovereign. In fact, considering the three major powers, he stood out as an elite martial sovereign. If he were to add the Saber Domain into the mix, Lin Fei's strength would be immeasurable. In reality, the power gaps between different martial sovereigns are vast. Some martial sovereigns, having cultivated lesser divine abilities, might have higher realms. They might even possess multiple divine abilities that, when combined, can be formidable in combat. However, this is in comparison to the average martial sovereign. Once a martial sovereign has cultivated two or even three great divine abilities, the disparity becomes evident. And if they are top-tier great divine abilities, even having one or two can make a significant difference. Naturally, great divine abilities are challenging to cultivate, not to mention the top-tier ones. The fact that Lin Fei could perfect the divine ability Black Wind Prison in such a short period was nothing short of a miracle. Lin Fei was pondering the Gravity Domain. He had just begun to grasp its essence. Although he hadn't planned to cultivate the Gravity Domain so soon, the memories he acquired informed him of the detailed cultivation process. The Gravity Domain seemed to be more effectively cultivated in areas with abnormal gravitational forces. Lin Fei immediately thought of the ancient origin sect's Gravity Tower, which was designed to temper one's physical body. Having ventured into the Gravity Tower before, he wondered if cultivating the Gravity Domain there might yield better results. This was purely coincidental, but Lin Fei didn't want to miss such an opportunity. Let's give it a try, Lin Fei thought. With a single step, he left his dwelling and flew straight to the Gravity Tower. Outside the Gravity Tower in the ancient origin sect, many disciples came and went, many wishing to temper their physical bodies within the tower. The required contribution points to enter the Gravity Tower were minimal, so it was popular among disciples. As Lin Fei landed outside the tower, revealing himself, a wave of recognition swept through the crowd. Their hearts trembled slightly at his sight, and they hurriedly bowed, saying, "Greetings, Sovereign Lin." Lin Fei might not yet fully realize the esteem in which he was held within the ancient origin sect. The last time, he had decisively defeated the worry-free sovereign from the illusion worry city. This news had reached the ancient origin sect, shocking both the disciples and the elders. They were not only amazed but also thrilled. Many viewed Lin Fei as the #1 figure in the ancient origin sect. Therefore, seeing him in person was naturally exciting for many. The elder guarding the gravity tower hurriedly approached Lin Fei and respectfully said, "Sovereign Lin, do you wish to use the gravity tower? We will immediately evacuate the disciples inside." This was Lin Fei's privilege, or more accurately, the privilege of a sovereign. Whenever a sovereign wished to use certain facilities within the ancient origin sect, they had priority. Lin Fei pondered for a moment. He didn't really want to disturb others. However, if he were to cultivate the gravity domain inside the tower, he might inadvertently unleash its power, which could be very dangerous. If someone were to be trapped within his gravity domain, even a martial sovereign would not be able to withstand it. Not to mention those at lower ranks. They could be instantly crushed to death by the gravity domain. Therefore, Lin Fei straightforwardly stated, "I need to use the gravity tower to cultivate a divine ability. If someone comes near me, it might be dangerous. So, it's better to evacuate everyone from the tower for now." "Yes, Sovereign Lin," the elder replied. "But may we observe from outside the tower?" he asked with hopeful eyes. Watching a martial sovereign cultivate a divine ability was a rare opportunity. Lin Fei did not refuse, saying, "Stay at least 300 meters away from the tower." "Thank you, Sovereign." The elder's face lit up with joy. He then proceeded to evacuate all the disciples from the gravity tower. "Sovereign, the gravity tower is now empty. You may enter at your convenience." "All right." Lin Fei nodded and then stepped into the gravity tower. Once Lin Fei's figure disappeared, some disciples outside hurriedly asked the elder, "What is Sovereign Lin doing inside the gravity tower?" "He is already a martial sovereign, so he doesn't need to temper his body in the tower, does he?" The elder glanced over the curious crowd and said sullenly, "Sovereign Lin is here to cultivate a divine ability. Everyone must stay more than 300 meters away from the tower." Upon hearing that Lin Fei was cultivating a divine ability, the crowd erupted with excitement. "What? Cultivating a divine ability? Sovereign Lin is cultivating a divine ability in the gravity tower. This is a must-watch." The idea that witnessing this might be beneficial for their own cultivation sparked further interest. Although disciples and elders of the ancient origin sect knew about martial sovereigns possessing divine abilities, they were unclear about what these abilities looked like or how they were cultivated. In fact, most had never even seen a martial sovereign in action. Having received Lin Fei's permission to watch, the elder spread the word. Many disciples and elders were drawn to the gravity tower out of curiosity. Eventually, the activity even caught the attention of the ancient origin sect's leader and Wen sovereign. Both of these prominent martial sovereigns made their way to the outside of the gravity tower. "Greetings, sect leader and Wen sovereign." Both the sect leader and Wen sovereign nodded slightly, their gaze immediately fixated on Lin Fei's figure inside the gravity tower. The ancient origin sect's leader seemed somewhat incredulous. "Are you certain that Sovereign Lin mentioned he wishes to cultivate a divine ability?" he inquired once more. "We are sure. Sovereign Lin indeed said he wishes to cultivate a divine ability," the elder of the gravity tower confirmed with certainty. For a moment, both the sect leader and Wen sovereign exchanged glances. They were well aware that the first divine ability Lin Fei had cultivated was the Black Wind Prison, which surely had nothing to do with gravity. Thus, there would be no need for the gravity tower for its cultivation. Therefore, the divine ability that Lin Fei aimed to cultivate wasn't the Black Wind Prison. It was his second divine ability. Only after mastering the first divine ability could one begin to cultivate the second. Could it be that Lin Fei has already perfected his first divine ability? Even when Sovereign found it hard to believe. Black Wind Prison was a top-tier great divine ability. How much time had passed since Lin Fei began his cultivation journey? And he was already starting on his second divine ability. Moreover, he was cultivating it openly. How confident must he be? "No matter what, let's just observe for now," said the sect leader, setting the tone for the discussion. "We can inquire further once Sovereign Lin emerges." Above all else, Lin Fei's cultivation was of the utmost importance. Besides, both the sect leader and Wen Sovereign were curious to see for themselves what kind of divine ability was Lin Fei second. Chapter 294. Power of Gravity Domain. Lin Fei practiced the divine ability. This caused a sensation throughout the entire ancient origin sect. Numerous disciples and elders flocked to the vicinity of the gravity tower. However, Lin Fei remained unperturbed by the external commotion. At that moment, he had ascended to the 9th floor of the gravity tower. In the past, Lin Fei had ventured into this tower. Step by step, he had conquered each floor, eventually reaching the 9th. Back then, the immense gravitational force had exerted a notable pressure upon him. But now, as Lin Fei revisited the 9th floor, he found the gravity here to be almost insignificant to him, even trivial. Still, there was gravity, and to Lin Fei's divine ability, perhaps this held some significance. Indeed, after spending a short while on the 9th floor of the gravity tower, Lin Fei heard the system's voice echo in his mind. "Host is in an environment with abnormal gravity. Your divine ability, gravity domain, is pleased. Training efficiency has increased. Your divine ability, gravity domain, has advanced by 10%. Lin Fei had only just arrived on the 9th floor, and already his gravity domain divine ability had improved by 10%. He continued to sit cross-legged, waiting in silent anticipation. Indeed, waiting was all he did. The training was not something Lin Fei had to actively engage in. The gravity domain took it upon itself to work hard in its cultivation. Even insights were gained autonomously by the gravity domain. In time, Lin Fei would obtain memories of these epiphanies. It felt as if he was the one who had experienced them firsthand. Lin Fei was reminded of the law surrounding the gravity tower. It was said that this tower was the creation of the ancient origin sect's ancestors, who had invited a golden core true person. They had poured endless effort and resources into its creation. The gravity tower itself was a golden core level magic treasure. Of course, this magic treasure wasn't meant for combat, but to emit gravity and aid in cultivation. Time ticked away. The longer Lin Fei stayed within the gravity tower, the steadier his progress in mastering the gravity domain. 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, 90%. With a resonant boom, a massive life wheel materialized behind Lin Fei. And on it, 2 radiant layers became visible. These represented his 2 divine abilities. The second layer now shone even brighter, expanding and becoming increasingly luminous. While every person's life wheel was more or less the same size, the more formidable a divine ability, the larger the radiance behind the life wheel. Thus, the combined luminescence of Lin Fei's 2 divine abilities surpassed even the triad of abilities once possessed by the worry-free sovereign. And not just by a little, but by a considerable margin. At that moment, with the life wheel and its 2 expansive radiances manifesting behind him, Lin Fei emanated an aura of terrifying power. Your divine ability, gravity domain, has advanced to 100%. Your divine ability, gravity domain, has achieved mastery. Lin Fei's divine ability, gravity domain, had broken through. In less than 1 day, it had already achieved this breakthrough. Moreover, upon reaching mastery, the range of his gravity domain skyrocketed, extending even beyond the confines of the gravity tower. A thunderous rumble resounded. The might of Lin Fei's gravity domain was truly fearsome. Everything within its range was subjected to tremendous gravitational force. As the scope of Lin Fei's gravity domain expanded, immediately, massive rocks and the ground outside the gravity tower were all ground into fine powder. It felt as if the entire earth trembled. "Retreat, everyone," came a shout. "Hurry, fall back." The faces of the ancient origin sect's leader and Wen Sovereign paled instantly. They understood that this was an unconscious display of Lin Fei's divine ability during its breakthrough. Such a formidable divine ability was clearly a top-tier great divine ability. Even at a distance of 100 meters from the gravity tower, the danger was palpable. "Mountain collapse," Wen Sovereign exclaimed. A life well similarly appeared behind him as he summoned his divine ability in an attempt to counter Lin Fei's gravity domain. However, in the next moment, Lin Fei's gravity domain engulfed him. When Sovereign felt as if he was being pressed down by infinite weight, instantly pinned to the ground. He plummeted from the sky and crashed heavily onto the earth. A thunderous crash echoed as a massive crater formed. Within the crater, When Sovereign was a blooded mass. The sight was truly heartbreaking. But When Sovereign, being a martial sovereign, possessed astounding regenerative abilities. Despite being battered, his recovery was frighteningly swift. Relying on his mountain collapse great divine ability, he managed to hold on. A swift whoosh signified Lin Fei's emergence from the gravity tower. He glanced at the crater where When Sovereign lay and seemed at a loss for words. Cough. Sovereign Lin, what kind of divine ability have you been practicing? Just now, I was caught off guard, and it almost cost me my life. It was When Sovereign who spoke first. At this moment, everyone had witnessed the spectacle, and they were profoundly shaken. What had they just seen? The prestigious When Sovereign had been flung to the ground by an unintentional release of Sovereign Lin's divine ability. He was utterly defenseless. Even the most naive among them could interpret the implications. It meant that When Sovereign was simply no match for Lin Fei. The gap between them was vast. Has Sovereign Lin truly become this powerful? And that divine ability, it's terrifying. It seems somewhat similar to the gravity tower. Not just similar, that divine ability is gravitation itself. Only it's 10, perhaps even 100 times more potent than the gravity inside the tower. This is what a martial sovereign's divine ability looks like. It's not merely about martial moves anymore. It's a wondrous method, rivaling the spells and magic treasures of those golden core true persons. Only when one's martial arts have reached this level can it be called true martial arts. Witnessing Lin Fei's unintentionally displayed gravity domain divine ability, the martial saints and innate disciples were all filled with admiration and envy. However, they were also keenly aware of how challenging it is to attain the status of a martial sovereign. In the ancient origin sect, only Lin Fei had become a martial sovereign in hundreds of years. When sovereign, I was practicing my divine ability in the gravity tower. When my divine ability broke through, I couldn't control it. I hope you understand, Lin Fei said, extending his hand to help When Sovereign up. When Sovereign looked at Lin Fei with a peculiar gaze, then sighed deeply. Is this a new top-tier great divine ability? Have you perfected your Black Wind Prison? I went to Corpse Demon Mountain and, with the aid of the Yin Evil Chi there, brought Black Wind Prison to completion. Later, by a stroke of luck, I met a martial sovereign from a martial king family and acquired this divine ability. Corpse Demon Mountain. Indeed, Black Wind Prison is best suited for cultivation there. We must promote this divine ability more in the future, making sure to note this. If we choose to cultivate another divine ability in the future, we can select Black Wind Prison and then practice at Corpse Demon Mountain. The leader of the ancient origin sect and When Sovereign both had their eyes light up. The challenge in cultivating a divine ability is often finding the correct method of practice. Lin Fei's trip to the Corpse Demon Mountain personally demonstrated that the Incha energy was beneficial for the cultivation of Black Wind Prison. Future martial sovereigns who cultivate Black Wind Prison will now have a specific method to follow, ensuring much more efficient results. Of course, Lin Fei didn't mention that his cultivation at Corpse Demon Mountain was due to the divine ability's own effort and understanding. For an average martial sovereign, even if they practiced Black Wind Prison, the benefits of cultivating at Corpse Demon Mountain might be limited. Sect leader, I've been using the Gravity Tower's gravitational force for my practice. After the recent breakthrough, its effects aren't as pronounced. How is the gravity in the Gravity Tower produced? Lin Fei needed a more potent gravitational force to cultivate his gravity domain. The Gravity Tower could no longer offer much assistance to Lin Fei. At most, it could aid in reaching transcendence. For achieving perfection, relying solely on the Gravity Tower would likely prove very challenging. Chapter 295. State of Affairs. Gravity Tower. The sect leader pondered for a moment before slowly saying, "This Gravity Tower is one of the treasured assets of our ancient origin sect. When we were crafting this treasure, we needed a very special material. It's called a gravity stone. To find this gravity stone, the ancient origin sect's ancestors sent out many top-tier martial sovereigns, and after much difficulty, they managed to acquire some of them. Only then did we invite a top-tier golden core true person to craft this gravity tower. Gravity stone. Lin Fei's eyes lit up. He originally thought that the reason the gravity tower possessed such immense gravitational force was due to the formations crafted by the golden core true persons. He believed that these formations simulated gravity. Unexpectedly, there was something as miraculous as the gravity stone. Where can I find these gravity stones? Lin Fei inquired. Gravity stones are very unique. Almost all of them were found in the ancient battlefields. However, the ancient battlefield is extremely dangerous. Not only are there terrifying exotic beasts, but there are also terrifying powers that can emerge at any time. Even a martial sovereign entering would face danger. Ancient battlefield. This was the first time Lin Fei had heard of it. The sect leader then explained to Lin Fei. The ancient battlefield was a mysterious location within the vast ancient continent. Legend has it that this battlefield might date back to a very ancient time. Perhaps a significant battle had taken place there. It's unclear who fought in this battle, but the residual powers that lingered were immensely terrifying. Despite the danger, there were also opportunities. For instance, some found special materials there used to craft magic treasures. These magic treasures were immensely powerful. Similarly, materials like the gravity stone were of great importance. Lin Fei continued his cultivation within the gravity tower before going to the ancient battlefield. However, after mastering the gravity domain, the pace of his cultivation slowed down significantly. He could only progress by about 2% each day. In a blink of an eye, 2 months passed. Boon. Lin Fei's life will emerged once more from his back. But this time, with his prior experience, he immediately retracted the life wheel. Your divine ability, gravity domain, through diligent cultivation, has broken through to transcendence. The system's voice echoed in Lin Fei's mind. System. Lin Fei quickly checked. Host, Lin Fei. Martial Arts Realm, Early Martial Sovereign. Great Divine Ability, Black Wind Prison, Perfection. Great Divine Ability, Gravity Domain, Transcendence, Progress 0%. Saber Domain, Beginner, Progress 0%. Indeed, the Divine Ability, Gravity Domain, had reached Transcendence. In this transcendent state, the demand for gravitational force was much greater. Within the gravity tower, Lin Fei's gravity domain would hardly see any further improvement. The gravitational force in the gravity tower is insufficient now. To perfect the gravity domain, an even more intense gravitational environment is required. Perhaps it's time to head to the ancient battlefield to seek out the gravity stone, Lin Fei contemplated. Lin Fei left the gravity tower. The tower was open again to others. Lin Fei returned to his dwelling. He checked information on the ancient battlefield. In the vast ancient continent, ancient battlefield wasn't referring to a single location. Instead, it was a general term. In reality, there were many ancient battlefields. The closest one to the ancient origin sect was located in a place named Kanli Ancient City. This city was said to have a very long history. It experienced several declines but was rebuilt many times. Gradually, due to its proximity to an ancient battlefield, it flourished again. Lin Fei decided to visit Kanli Ancient City to look for clues about the gravity stone. His progress in the saber domain had almost stalled, and he hadn't found a way to cultivate it. Neither did the ancient origin sect. Lin Fei had also consulted Xiao Yuchen, who was equally clueless. How profound was the foundation of the martial kin family? But they also didn't know the cultivation method for the saber domain. However, Xiao Yuchen mentioned that while evolving domains as a martial sovereign indeed increases one's strength, achieving the title of martial king isn't directly linked to one's domain. Hence, not many focused on domain cultivation. They instead concentrated on refining their divine abilities. After all, even cultivating a divine ability was energy-consuming. Most found it hard to cultivate a divine ability, let alone divert their attention to domains. Many martial sovereigns who perfected their domains relied on personal epiphanies without specific cultivation techniques. As a result, Lin Fei couldn't rely on the saber domain to enhance his strength. Without a specific cultivation method or even a clear direction for improvement, he felt helpless. His only option was to focus on cultivating his divine ability. Sovereign Lin. At this moment, the voice of the sect leader echoed from outside the dwelling. Lin Fei welcomed him in. Sect leader, how can I assist you? Typically, the sect leader wouldn't approach Lin Fei without a reason. I heard Sovereign Lin left the gravity tower, indicating your divine ability cultivation must have reached a phase of completion. I came to inform Sovereign Lin about something. Recently, Tai Dao Palace has been very active, even attempting to gradually isolate the disciples of our ancient origin sect. Therefore, if Sovereign Lin plans to leave the sect, please be cautious. It might be best not to leave the ancient origin sect at all. Lin Fei frowned. Is Tai Dao Palace targeting the disciples of the ancient origin sect? Or a profound light cave heaven and red Hades mansion also involved? The sect leader hesitated for a moment, then replied in a deep voice, only our ancient origin sect disciples. Lin Fei fell silent. Profound light cave heaven, red Hades mansion, and ancient origin sect. These three major powers were supposed to be in sync. However, in reality, the relationship between the three forces was not as solid as it seemed. There were constant overt and covert conflicts between them. Still, they usually presented a united front against Tai Dao Palace. But this situation seemed different. Fishes. Lin Fei deduced. Tai Dao Palace has found the rifts in our relations with Profound Light Cave Heaven and Red Hades Mansion. That's why the other two are silently consenting to Tai Dao Palace's actions against us. Lin Fei, ever analytical, noted they must have used some tactic. The sect leader nodded. Your insight is sharp. Indeed, Tai Dao Palace exploited the cracks in our alliance. And primarily, it's because of you. Because of me? Lin Fei's eyes flickered, guessing the reason. Is it because I defeated worry-free sovereign, or because my rapid cultivation progress threatened the other two forces? The sect leader smiled giddily. Both reasons. By defeating worry-free sovereign, you've established yourself as one of the top powers among us. Plus, being a Dao Seeker, your potential is boundless. If you continue to grow, you might overshadow both Profound Light Cave Heaven and Red Hades Mansion. Understanding dawned on Lin Fei. The two powers were indeed wary of him. He smirked. They've good judgment. Indeed, if things continue as they are, I can overshadow the three major forces. Their scheming is pointless. If I'm still around, it's inevitable. As for Tai Dao Palace, if they want to kill me, they'd better have the strength. Lin Fei declared coldly. With his current capabilities, he could indeed influence the power dynamics. If he advanced further, especially by mastering the four great divine abilities, he could challenge Tai Dao Palace directly. I'm going to the ancient battlefield to find the gravity stone, Lin Fei stated. As for Tai Dao Palace, there's no need to worry. While they pride themselves on their nascent soul lineage, they no longer have any nascent soul great beings. If need be, I can make a trip to Tai Dao Palace myself and see whose foundation is deeper, theirs or mine. As his voice echoed in the cave, Lin Fei transformed into a beam of light and swiftly left the area. Chapter 296. Actions of Tai Dao Palace. Inside the main hall of Tai Dao Palace. Palace Master, Lin Fei has left their premises, a disciple reported. Based on our latest information, he has mastered the second divine ability. The hall was instantly filled with murmurs of shock. The second divine ability? How long has it been since Lin Fei became a martial sovereign? He's already perfected the first divine ability. And his first divine ability was a great divine ability. To have it perfected and now moving on to the second, his talent and speed of cultivation are unparalleled in the history of the ancient origin sect. This is a grave threat to our Tai Dao Palace. Indeed, even if Lin Fei doesn't become a martial king, a top-tier martial sovereign with multiple great divine abilities is a force to be reckoned with. Who can challenge him? We must act decisively. We should eliminate him now before he becomes an unstoppable force. Furthermore, if we take out Lin Fei now, both Profound Light Cave Heaven and Red Hades Mansion would be pleased. For a moment, almost every gold core true person in the whole agreed that Lin Fei must be eliminated immediately. The leader of Tai Dao Palace, expressionless, swept his gaze across all present before slowly stating, "Now is indeed the best opportunity to eliminate Lin Fei. If left unchecked, he will undoubtedly become a thorn in our side. But the question is, who will take on the task? Who's willing to make the move?" Suddenly, the whole was silent. All the gold core true persons were quiet. They were filled with righteous indignation and knew that Lin Fei had to be eliminated. But who would do it? By now, Lin Fei's power was formidable. Even worry-free Sovereign wasn't such a headache for Tai Dao Palace. But Lin Fei was even stronger than him. Not just any martial sovereign could match him. However, someone finally stepped forward. "Let the five of us, the old-timers, handle it," a voice echoed. "We have lived for 900 years. Our time is near. We can give it our all." 5 gold core true persons stood up. The leader nodded in recognition at the 5 elders of Precious Spring Peak. "With you 5 taking action, I can rest easy. To ensure success, I will bestow upon you the 5 directional array flags. They can isolate the external world, creating a unique space. It is designed to counter Lin Fei's Saber Domain. If his Saber Domain is suppressed by the array, his power will be greatly reduced, and you should be able to defeat him." With a wave of his hand, whoosh, 5 rays of light flew toward the 5 elders. "Thank you for the treasure, Palace Master." With that, the 5 gold core true persons transformed into beams of light and departed from Tai Dao Palace. Kenli Ancient City. Lin Fei transformed into a beam of light and appeared outside the Kenli Ancient City. The city was bustling, with people coming and going. Despite the dangers of the ancient battlefield, many still ventured into it in search of treasures and opportunities. Kenli Ancient City served as a resting point for such adventurers. However, in the city square, 5 old men sat cross-legged, catching the attention of many passers-by. But the old men remained motionless, seemingly oblivious to the curious glances they received until Lin Fei appeared. In an instant, all 5 old men snapped open their eyes, fixating their gaze directly on Lin Fei. With his consensus, Lin Fei immediately felt the intense scrutiny of the 5. But he did not recognize any of them. "Sovereign Lin, we've been waiting for you," one of the elderly men spoke up. "Who are you?" Lin Fei inquired. "We are the 5 elders of Precious Spring Peak from Tai Dao Palace," the oldest looking among them answered, an almost palpable aura of impending death about him. For a gold core true person to emit such an aura meant their time was nearly up. Tai Dao Palace. Lin Fei's face darkened in realization. They had finally made a move against him. And they had sent 5 gold core true persons on the brink of their life's end. Though these elders were nearing their final days, it didn't mean they were weak. On the contrary, they were extremely powerful. With centuries of cultivation, their powers and spells had reached their peak, and they possessed magical treasures. Each one was among the top gold core true persons. Such a team assembled to deal with just him was indeed cautious. Without a word, Lin Fei instantly released his Saber Domain. Immediately, the domain began enveloping the 5 elders. Flames erupted everywhere. Within the Saber Domain, the 5 gold core true persons found their powers suppressed and their strengths diminished by half due to the domain and the engulfing flames. The commotion was immense, drawing the attention of the entire Kenli Ancient City. Who were those 5 gold core true persons? They are attacking a single martial sovereign. But that martial sovereign has mastered the Saber Domain. I recognize them. They are the 5 elders of Precious Spring Peak from Tai Dao Palace. The 5 elders of Precious Spring Peak. They were legendary figures in Tai Dao Palace centuries ago. Rumors said they were nearing their life's end. Why would they be attacking a single martial sovereign now? Who is so significant that he would warrant the combined assault of the 5 elders of Tai Dao Palace? Inside Kenli Ancient City, numerous gold core true persons and martial sovereigns looked towards the city's outskirts. While many didn't recognize Lin Fei, many were familiar with the 5 elders of Precious Spring Peak, given that the Tai Dao Palace was an esteemed nascent soul lineage. Yet, the martial sovereign seemed most intrigued by Lin Fei, particularly because he displayed the saber domain. In some sense, evolving a domain was even more challenging than cultivating top-tier great divine abilities. To witness an unfamiliar martial sovereign demonstrating such prowess was indeed a surprise. The battle between gold core true persons and a martial sovereign was always captivating. But now, with 5 gold core true persons gaining up on one martial sovereign, the scene naturally drew a lot more attention. Saber domain. The 5 elders of Precious Spring Peak's eyes flashed with a sharp glint. With a flick of their fingers, a surge of magical energy burst forth, sending beams of light shooting toward Lin Fei from all directions. These beams of light revealed themselves to be massive flags. Positioned around Lin Fei, the 5 flags appeared to establish a formation. Instantly, Lin Fei felt as if he was isolated from the external world by these flags. While he could still see outside, he could no longer sense anything like the spiritual chi of the world. It seemed these flags had formed an enclosed space. More than just isolation, the flags even began to suppress Lin Fei's saber domain. Suppressing my saber domain. Lin Fei's eyes narrowed. Ever since he evolved his saber domain, this was the first time it had ever been stifled. Clearly, this suppression was the true function of the flags. Sovereign Lin, our Tai Dao Palace is a lineage of the nascent soul. An elder Rust, the depths of our heritage are beyond your imagination. These 5 directional array flags can suppress your saber domain. Without it, your strength is halved. Today, you are doomed. Cold murderous intent radiated from the eyes of each of the 5 elders. Chapter 297. 1 against 5. Great Mountain Seal. The 5 elders simultaneously cast the Great Mountain Seal. All 5 were gold core level magic treasures. More crucially, they could merge with each other. With Lin Fei's saber domain suppressed by the 5 elders' 5 directional array flags, it was the first time his domain had lost its ability to overwhelm opponents. You certainly come prepared, Lin Fei remarked coldly. But did you think I rely solely on the saber domain? I am a martial sovereign. His eyes were icy, filled with lethal intent. In the next instant, a massive life wheel materialized behind Lin Fei. 2 layers of radiant light adorned the life wheel, dazzling to behold. A formidable aura of suppression immediately descended upon the 5 elders. This was the pressure from the life wheel. However, the 5 elders were all top-tier gold core true persons with a high life level, so they remained unaffected by Lin Fei's life wheel. But Lin Fei hadn't intended to merely suppress them with it. He was preparing to use a divine ability. Using your divine ability will be pointless, one of the elders declared. We are well aware of your Black Wind Prison divine ability. We are protected by magic treasures. Your corrosive wind won't touch us. Great Mountain Seal, descend. The 5 elders seemed to be highly informed about Lin Fei, even knowing about his Black Wind Prison, and had prepared accordingly. However, mere preparation didn't guarantee success. If simply knowing about a divine ability and preparing defenses against it were enough, why would martial sovereigns bother to cultivate them? As a result, the 5 elders not only had their defenses ready, but they also immediately merged with 5 Great Mountain Seals, attacking Lin Fei directly. The Great Mountain Seal, towering tens of thousands of meters, was like an ancient divine mountain. The terrifying pressure enveloped Lin Fei instantly. This was the fusion of 5 gold core level magic treasures, and its power was earth-shattering. With the combined might of the 5 elders, they could easily overwhelm most martial sovereigns. Many immortal sects and martial arts schools would be defeated by them. Yet, at this moment, all this formidable power was being used to deal with just one person, Lin Fei. This showed the extent of the Tai Dao Palace's determination to eliminate him. In the sky, the colossal ancient divine mountain descended towards Lin Fei. Deprived of his saber domain's power, and even with the limited effectiveness of the Black Wind Prison, which was mainly designed for humans and not magic treasures like the Great Mountain Seal, many onlookers believed they knew the outcome. After all, with the 5 elders taking action, they must have been confident in their success. What a pity. If the 5 elders are taking action, Lin Fei must be truly skilled. The Great Mountain Seal of Tai Dao Palace can merge with one another. Such a technique is terrifying. This is the essence of the nascent soul tradition. The power of the nascent soul tradition is indeed formidable. Just this one technique alone makes Tai Dao Palace an incredibly powerful sect. Even without a nascent soul overseeing them, they are still immensely powerful. Witnessing the 5 elders merging the Great Mountain Seal and displaying the 5 directional array flags, many gold core true persons and martial sovereigns in the Kangli ancient city felt a chill in their hearts. They empathized with Lin Fei, wondering if they, in his place against the 5 elders, would face a similar inevitable doom. No one dared to underestimate Tai Dao Palace. In the sky, the Great Mountain Seal thundered down. The 5 elders were confident in their impending victory. If they could suppress Lin Fei's saber domain, dealing with him would be effortless. Yet, Lin Fei appeared unfazed. He stared at the descending Great Mountain Seal while the second layer of light on his life wheel flickered slightly. A hum resonated. Divine ability, gravity domain. Upon Lin Fei casting the gravity domain, an invisible force of gravity immediately enveloped the Great Mountain Seal and the 5 elders. The seal accelerated under the influence of this gravitational pull. Although Lin Fei couldn't destroy the Great Mountain Seal with his gravity, he could alter its descent path. Guided by Lin Fei's gravitational pull, the seal unexpectedly veered directly toward the 5 elders. What? Witnessing this, the 5 elders were astounded. They hadn't anticipated this twist. How could the Great Mountain Seal, out of their control, plummet towards them? They tried to dodge, but their bodies felt incredibly heavy as if an overwhelming force had pinned them down, making even the slightest movement seem nearly impossible. They could only watch helplessly as the Great Mountain Seal descended. Divine ability, Lin Fei's second divine ability. The 5 elders instantly realized the issue. It was Lin Fei's divine ability. They knew he had cultivated a second divine ability but were unaware of its specifics. They hadn't expected it to manifest as this fearsome gravitational force. Great Mountain Seal split. Without any delay, the 5 elders separated the Great Mountain Seal. Instantly, the single seal was divided into 5. Although still influenced by Lin Fei's gravity, the elders managed to control them, turning them into beams of light that swiftly returned to their hands. Lin Fei extended his hand. Gravitational collapse. The very next moment, a terrifying force of gravity converged on the 5 Baoquan Peak elders. Boom. The void itself seemed to distort. Such a horrifying gravity, even the physique of a martial sovereign couldn't withstand. How could the 5 elders endure? Their defensive magic treasures were immediately distorted. As for their defensive spells, they were instantly shattered, not able to withstand the gravitational force. Only the Great Mountain Seal remained, shielding them. However, under the gravity domain, the Great Mountain Seal was also rendered ineffective. They could only watch as their bodies were gradually compressed by the overwhelming gravity, threatening to collapse. 5 directional array flags, return. The 5 elders were frightened and immediately recalled the 5 directional array flags. These flags were adept in both offense and defense. More importantly, they could create their own space. This space could suppress Lin Fei's saber domain and also fend off external attacks. Whoosh! As the 5 directional array flags were swiftly recalled by the elders, they encapsulated the 5 elders within, creating a space of their own that shielded them from Lin Fei's gravity domain. The flags even seemed to resist Lin Fei's gravitational realm, freeing the 5 elders from its pressing force. However, while the 5 directional array flags resolved the immediate peril for the elders, they released Lin Fei's saber domain. Bang! Lin Fei's saber domain descended, covering the 5 directional array flags. At the same time, the saber domain began to merge slowly with the gravity domain. The 2 powers melded into one. Fire! A thought emerged in Lin Fei's heart, and flames roared to life, turning the void into a blazing inferno. The 5 elders and the 5 directional array flags were trapped within, continuously scorched. In a matter of moments, the situation for the 5 elders became dire. Their position was precarious. Lin Fei, with his power alone, entirely suppressed the 5 elders. Witnessing this, the numerous gold core true persons and martial sovereigns in the Kangli ancient city were utterly astounded. Chapter 298. clues to the gravity stone. He suppressed them. This martial sovereign, with his own strength, managed to suppress the 5 elders from Tai Dao Palace. It's inconceivable. Can a martial sovereign be this powerful? Looking at his life wheel, he merely possesses 2 divine abilities. These 2 divine abilities are no simple feat. Moreover, until now, he has only showcased one of them. If I'm not mistaken, both of his divine abilities are great divine abilities, perhaps even top-tier ones. Furthermore, he has the Saber Domain. His Saber Domain alone can rival several great divine abilities. This martial sovereign is indeed powerful. No wonder Tai Dao Palace went to such lengths as to dispatch the 5 elders just to eliminate this martial sovereign. Watching Lin Fei single-handedly turn the tables, pinning the 5 elders in a precarious situation, many in the city were left in awe. Were they in a similar situation, they would have been powerless. Even those martial sovereigns in the mid or late stage, possessing several great divine abilities, would find themselves in peril. The gap between martial sovereigns is indeed vast. Possessing mere lesser divine abilities, even if one has mastered 9, often pales in comparison to mastering 2 or 3 great divine abilities. Moreover, Lin Fei possesses 2 top-tier great divine abilities. The 5 elders were struggling. They hadn't anticipated that, even with the 5 directional array flags, the Great Mountain Seal, and their combined strength as 5 gold core true persons, they'd end up in this dire situation. They were constantly on the defense, utterly unable to counter Lin Fei. Lin Fei's momentum is unstoppable. Even if we risk everything, we cannot overcome him. Let's go. The 5 elders knew they couldn't contend with Lin Fei. So, their first instinct was to retreat. Trying to leave. It's too late. Lin Fei's gaze was icy cold. How could he let the people of Tai Dao Palace go? If the Tai Dao Palace could dispatch the 5 elders to eliminate him, it proved their unwavering determination to see him dead. Given this, Lin Fei would naturally not be merciful. Killing the 5 elders would mean the Tai Dao Palace would lose 5 gold core true persons. Buzz. Within Lin Fei's saber domain, a blade quickly materialized. A towering blade, thousands of meters in length. Perhaps everyone had forgotten that he was not just a martial sovereign but also a saber sovereign. His strongest techniques, especially under his saber domain, are rooted in his saber skills. Slash! With a single swing of Lin Fei's saber, the world seemed to rupture. A force as if the heavens themselves were descending bore down on the 5 elders, slashing mightily. The 5 elders had to use the Great Mountain Seal to protect themselves. Boom! The 5 elders had no choice but to place the Great Mountain Seal in front of them. However, the power of the saber strike was too overwhelming. Even their Great Mountain Seal was knocked flying by Lin Fei's attack. The moment the Great Mountain Seal was sent flying, flames scorched the 5 elder spells. Now, without their protection, Lin Fei chanted, Divine Ability, Black Wind Prison. A wind began to stir. Inside Lin Fei's saber domain, the 5 elders suddenly felt a chilly breeze. But as they lowered their heads, they realized that where the wind passed, their flesh instantly turned into white bones. It was the wind of bone erosion. Moreover, Lin Fei's Black Wind Prison had reached perfection. Its power surged tremendously. Anything touched by this wind, unprotected, would be reduced to bones, whether it be magic body or Dao body. The proverbial wind that turns flesh to bone referred precisely to this eroding wind. Screams. Witnessing the scene, many martial sovereigns and gold core true persons in the city shivered in horror. In an instant, the 5 elders were turned into bones by the bone-eroding wind. Then, with a crushing force, their bones shattered into dust. Flames soon reduced them to ashes. Dead. The 5 elders had fallen. 5 top-tier gold core true persons, once renowned, were now annihilated by Lin Fei, leaving no trace behind. Silence. The entire ancient city of Kangli was eerily quiet. Many witnessed the scene. The fall of 5 gold core true persons was no minor event anywhere. Such a group was a powerful force in its own right, especially when they were the top-tier gold core true persons of Tai Dao Palace. Retrieve. Lin Fei withdrew his saber domain. Simultaneously, the magic treasures, the great mountain seals of the 5 gold core true persons, were all collected by him. In fact, Lin Fei already possessed many great mountain seals. However, the great mountain seal was very unique. Only the continuous refining by disciples of the Tai Dao Palace allowed for their integration. Otherwise, they remained separated magic treasures. Although still gold core level treasures, their effectiveness was clearly reduced. Lin Fei chose not to use these newly acquired magic treasures for now. Very few people dared to take the Great Mountain Seal due to the fear of Tai Dao Palace's pursuit. But Lin Fei wasn't in a rush. Once he obliterated the Tai Dao Palace in the future, he believed there would be no issue in dealing with the Great Mountain Seal. However, now that the Tai Dao Palace had openly dispatched the 5 elders to assassinate him, they would undoubtedly go mad upon hearing of their defeat and death at Lin Fei's hands. Given the depth and strength of the Tai Dao Palace, they were not limited to just the 5 elders. I must increase my strength quickly, Lin Fei pondered. It's best to perfect the gravity domain and then cultivate another divine ability. By that time, with 3 top-tier great divine abilities coupled with my saber domain, I'll be ready to face the threat of Tai Dao Palace. Lin Fei was well aware of his power. Unlike an ordinary martial sovereign, with his 3 top-tier great divine abilities and the saber domain, he could already be considered a top-tier martial sovereign. One only needed to look at the shocked expressions of the gold core true persons and other martial sovereigns in Kanbli Ancient City to understand how powerful he had become. Seizing the moment when most martial sovereigns and gold core true persons in Kanbli Ancient City were focused on him, Lin Fei loudly declared, "I have come here solely for the gravity stone. Whoever has it, or clues about it, will be generously rewarded by me." His voice echoed throughout the Kanbli Ancient City. Had Lin Fei been an unknown figure, his words might have fallen on deaf ears. However, having publicly killed the top-tier gold core true persons of Tai Dao Palace outside the city, his displayed strength was nothing short of astounding. Thus, his words carried significant weight. Lin Fei realized that if not for the incident with the 5 elders, he might have had the leisure to search for the gravity stone on the ancient battlefield. But now that they had shown up, there was no telling when the next ambush by the Tai Dao Palace would come. He couldn't afford to waste any more time. He didn't want to delay and put himself in danger. This was the only way to obtain the gravity stone the fastest. Yet, as Lin Fei's words settled, the crowd exchanged glances and no one responded. After what felt like a long time, a female voice finally whispered into Lin Fei's ear, "I have clues about the gravity stone. I guarantee you'll be satisfied, Sovereign. However, I don't wish to reveal my identity. Please wait for me on the outskirts of the ancient battlefield, and I'll come to you." Lin Fei scanned the area but couldn't identify the source of the message. It seemed the person intentionally hid her identity. However, as long as there were clues to the gravity stone, that was enough for him. With that, Lin Fei took a step forward, transforming into a streak of light. He bypassed Kanbli Ancient City and headed directly for the ancient battlefield.